Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo. Bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jed Lee. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very delighted and so honored that you'll join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Audible, CastBox, Player FM. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. We have a wonderful show for you today. J.E. Thomas comes to us first. She is here to celebrate her middle grade novel. It's called The AI Incident. And later in the show, Karen Cushman will be here to celebrate her middle grade novel, When Sally O'Malley Discovered the Sea. The Daytime Began, beautiful new picture book by Mary Ellen Roberson. Available at maryellenroberson.com.
In the dawn of the world, when colors were born, a gentle voice whispered, let there be morn. From mountains to rivers and skies up so blue, the daytime began. Oh, what a beautiful view. With every beat of the heart, in the breeze of the land, nature was singing as life took a stand. Oh, the wonders, the colors, the creatures so bright, in the pages of a story that brings pure delight. With every turn of the leaves, can you feel the cheer? The daytime began, let's celebrate here.
Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. We're going to have a fantastic time speaking about a subject that is near and dear to my heart. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new middle grade novel. It's called The AI Incident. Please welcome to the show, J.E. Thomas. Hey, J.E., how are you?
Hi there. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
I love the way how the AI Incident kind of is rhythmic, like with J.E. Thomas.
I never noticed that until now, but I like it. I'm going to start using it a lot.
So let's jump right into it. I have incredibly mixed feelings about AI. On the one hand, I think it's incredible and I use it a lot and it has made my life easier. But on the other hand, I am a little bit scared of it. So I'm always very polite when I speak to AI, saying please and thank you, because if they take over, I want them to remember I was one of the nice guys.
Okay.
So tell us about the book.
This book is about a battle of wits between 12-year-old Malcolm Montgomery, who's the unluckiest kid in Colorado foster care, and Francis, who is an autonomous AI program that was initially sent to Malcolm's new school to improve standardized test scores, and comes to realize that the best way to do that is to take over the school. Ta-da.
Just what I was talking about, taking over. So, well, I have a former foster kid that is near and dear to my heart, one of my favorite people in the world. And the foster care system is something that we've talked about a lot here on the podcast. I was amazed when I had Dr. John DeGarmo he's a foster care expert on the show, and he told me that on any given day, there are between 360 and 400,000 kids in the foster care system. That's incredible. Why did you choose to write about this 12-year-old foster kid?
I'm going to break that into a couple of parts. One is really kind of funny, and it's, well, why did you write about a 12-year-old? How did you start writing in middle school? And that was years ago. I was trying to find my voice. I was taking writing classes, and I was trying to find my voice. And one of the instructors said, you'll find your voice when you write to the age that you stopped, the emotional age that you stopped. And I thought, oh, great. I'll write a novel about corporate espionage or something like that. And I'll have this adult character. That didn't work. So then I slid down a little bit, and I thought, okay, college, what's now called new adult. And that didn't work. And I kept rolling it back, and I realized my emotional age at that point was 12 years old. And once I started writing from that point, I found my voice. I chose to write about a boy because when I wrote about a girl, I just infused too much of my personality into the character, and I needed some way of separating it. And then I wrote about foster care for a couple of reasons. One was neither my brother nor I were in foster care, but my parents both were in one way or another involved in living outside of their homes when they were growing up. And so I heard a lot about that as I was growing up. And then I had a wonderful conversation with a retired caseworker who really gave me invaluable insights into the impact of being in foster care on both the kids and on the caseworkers. So I wanted to bring that in. And that's really where this character came from.
So your emotional growth stopped when you were 12.
I've matured since then.
Oh,
so
okay. I'm not sure I have, but I love that. That's great advice.
Yes.
Was that kind of eye-opening for you when you realized, gee, my growth is stunted from.
I know it was. It really was. And what I discovered was I was able to tap into that emotional core as a middle schooler. So I could go back and imagine, what did it feel like when I was happy, when I was 12, when I was sad, when I was 12, and just pull from that. It was just wild, but it was so illuminating.
Yeah. I don't know if I can remember when I was happy when I was 12 or sad when I was 12, but I know my teachers were happy when I was out of the classroom, and really sad when I was in the classroom.
Oh, that's funny. I like that.
So let's dive a little bit more into the AI incident. Okay. How does the AI take over the school? Are they controlling the bathrooms and the toilets and the drinking fountains and?
No, so this is also really weird. When I started to write the book, and there's roughly an 18-month cycle from the time you sell a book to the time it comes out, and years before that. And so when I started writing the book, the idea of replacing human teachers with AI was just far-fetched. And now there are stories of schools that are having AI platforms handle some of the academics of class. And so it wasn't that far-fetched. And also I wanted to really separate what it is that an AI program does versus what it is that humans do. And it's that if you give an AI a task, this sounds very much like the Terminator, but if you give it a task, then its goal is to complete that task however it needs to do that. And so for this AI program, it realized that there were barriers to improving test scores, and those barriers were some of the teachers. So,
wow.
yeah,
You know, on the one hand, after my beautiful wife retired from teaching after 34 years, right after the pandemic, and so I saw her struggle with trying to teach over Zoom, and what was so frustrating about it is that because of my curiosity about education, because of my love of online learning, and my experience as the host of the Reading with Your Kids podcast, I knew that there were better solutions than my wife sitting in her room trying to teach her kids through Zoom the way she taught in the classroom. And what was frustrating was that exploring those new avenues was not encouraged or allowed. You know, the marching orders from her powers that be were like, you know, just do it the way you do it in class. And I don't think it was very successful.
Well, and that's why in this book, in the AI incident, I wanted to have a separate arc where teachers were exposed to the concept of AI. They were pursuing their own research, and my hope is that teachers will read this book as well and use it as a discussion tool amongst themselves to raise questions such as, how do we as educators research the various platforms that are out there? How do we as educators become involved in the conversation of which AI platforms to explore, which to trial? How do we define success? How do we measure success? And ultimately, which one do we choose? So in a funny way, and I hope I laughed, but in a funny way, my hope is that teachers look at this and say, oh, here's fodder for thought.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How does Malcolm being a foster kid factor into his battle with AI?
Because Malcolm, at 12, Malcolm is very concerned about not finding his forever home before he turns 13 and winds up in the teen unit where he's convinced nobody is ever adopted from. So he's created a checklist of all of the things that he thinks he has to do to become perfect enough, and I'm making quote marks here, to earn a family. He wants to become the perfect kid. And because he is so focused on achieving that goal, when the AI program, it's an AI-powered robot, comes in and says, I'll help you achieve your goal if you help me. And he's susceptible to that.
Uh-huh. I love it. And as you said, AI has grown so much since you wrote this book. I imagine, like, as you said, it takes 18 months from the time a manuscript is bought until it becomes a middle grade novel available on shelves. I have a feeling you started writing this book, maybe 24, 36 months before it hit the shelves.
Yes, I spent a lot of time writing in my head, which is not a very effective or efficient way to do it. But the characters just burrow their way into my brain, and I ruminate about the plot. I ruminate about their development, and I spend a lot of time thinking through before I actually put a pen to paper. So I was thinking of this quite some time before. It's the same way as with my prior book, Control Freaks. There's a plot line in there about a boy who decides that he wants to become the world's greatest inventor. So he creates what he calls the Doug app, since his name is Doug, that will scan the internet and write papers for his stepbrother. And that was before ChatGPT. And then just before the book came out, there was a lot of discussion about ChatGPT and kids using it to write papers, and how often what they would receive back was sort of hollow. It didn't have a lot of personality. So yes, in terms of the whole timeline, you've got it.
Yeah. J.E., what's on your mind right now? Because we might be able to take that. I know a couple of engineers. Maybe we can take it and make a bunch of money before something else.
I have so many ideas. I can't share them, but there are a couple of things that I suspect are going to happen, and so we'll see.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We're living in this amazing time where I mentioned engineers. My future son-in-law is an engineer, and he just thinks AI is, it's going to be irrelevant pretty soon. And other people are like, no, it can take over, and we got to be worried about it. And me in the middle just going, I'm using it. I'm having fun with it. But I know it doesn't always tell you the truth.
It does not.
It lies to me. I asked my AI to do something for me, create an image for me, and it did. It was an image of, I've been performing educational magic shows for 35 years, and I said, hey, can you create this image of me as a clown, and I'm wearing this, and I'm wearing that, and it came up, and so it made some very good images, made me look a lot better than I really am. But then all of a sudden, it started creating an image of me wearing a white headband around my neck, which is something that I only did when I was on tour with Clowns Without Borders in El Salvador. And when I started noticing that, and it wasn't just one, it was in a bunch of different images, and I said, hey, do you have access to the internet and these pictures of me and for the tour? And it came back and said, oh, no, I don't have access to the internet at all. And I'm like, oh, you're lying to me.
Yeah. It's so funny that you mention that. I referenced that in the book too, because the term people bandy about right now is hallucinations. AI is having a hallucination. We don't know why that's happening, but it's having it. And I wanted to pepper that concept in the book too, so kids who are reading it understand that just because they key something in and a disembodied AI platform comes back and says this is the right answer, that doesn't mean that it's the correct answer. It doesn't mean that it's truthful. And I think that whole concept of the ban, that is fascinating.
Yeah. It blew me away.
Yeah.
And then just experience it for it to come back and say, oh, no, I don't have access to the internet. It's like, oh, you're scrubbing the internet every second. What are you talking about? You don't have access to the internet.
How did that make you feel?
A lot less trusting.
Yeah. Yes. And isn't it weird that when something like that happens, there's nobody for you to go to say, well, wait, this is not right. You have nowhere to go.
Right.
So one of the things that I did recently was I did ask 2 different AI platforms how many AI companies there were. And I think I posed this question for the US, but it's possible I did it globally. But in effect, what I got back was more than 62,000. So it's interesting that when we say AI, there are so many different AI companies out there.
Now, in that incredible brain of yours, are you envisioning at some time these 62,000 are going to start battling each other and we're just going to be sitting on the sidelines and.
Not quite. I think what will happen is going to go in a different direction, but, I think that would be really interesting if that happened. One thing I will say about technology is I'm less afraid of the actual technology than I am of how humans use that technology. I think that's always the big question. Yeah. So, yes, I guess I have to write faster, don't I?
Tell me because this is a book that I would have loved to have read with my kids when they were in middle school, co-read with them, or even reading out loud. What kind of conversations do you think families can have as they're reading the AI incident together?
There are a few. One is there's a lot of humor in the book, a lot of laugh out loud points in the book. And I think it opens the door. Having that opens the door for parents to ask kids, what do you find funny? And if they're laughing a lot, but they don't laugh that much outside of reading the book, it opens the door on how do you feel? It also delves into the organic aspects of making human-to-human friendships. So it also opens the door for conversations on, do you have friends? What are your friendships like? So it is designed to give parents lots of ways to have conversations with kids that they might otherwise struggle with finding a way to bring up, to bring up those topics. And also because it's told, I think that the dialogue is pretty, I guess precise. That's not quite the word I'm looking for, but it's fun. It sounds like real dialogue. It sounds like the way people talk, that it gives, parents and kids opportunities to trade chapters, each one read a different chapter, trade voices. And lastly, I think whenever I do school visits, one of the things I hear from kids a lot is, well, they've read Control Freaks, and so they ask, when is Control Freaks going to become a graphic novel, or when is it going to become a movie? Both of these books are designed so that parents can, during the summer, turn it into a graphic novel. Give your kids something to do with it. Turn it into a play. Turn it into a movie. Can't sell it, of course, but to do those things and just expand their experience with the book.
Yeah, I love that. You hit on friendships and how important friendships are, and how, as parents, it's important for us to be aware if our kids have friendships and are making friendships. I recently was listening to a conversation on a podcast where Meta, the Facebook parent company, Facebook, Instagram, they see that kids aren't developing friendships, so their idea is to create AI friends. So a 13-year-old can go on and become friends with AI. That doesn't feel comfortable for me. How does it feel for you?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good at all. I think that there is such a difference between making a human-to-human friendship. One word I've used in the past is it's messy. It takes time. You have to figure out how you connect, and there are ebbs and flows in friendships. With an AI agent or AI app or whatever it is that you happen to use, all you have to do is, when it asks, can we be friends? And you type in yes, and then boop, you're friends. I just think that there's something to be said about having real people in your life, having a community in your life. And so, I wanted to show that. I wanted to explore that in the book and show people making friends, and just see how all of that plays out, and also to explore the whole concept of loneliness. Because when you're lonely, that changes the way you move in the world. I think about it as walking through a swimming pool. The way you stand, the way you step, the way you breathe, the way you talk, the way you think is different if you are really feeling lonely and isolated. So many of the characters in this book feel lonely to a certain degree, and it manifests in different ways.
Yeah. So much to talk about. One of the things that I hope families will talk about as they're reading the book is just it's a great way to open up a conversation about the foster care system. Mm-hmm. And there may be foster kids. I'm guessing there's a foster kid in just about every school. And how can we open up and reach and be friends with those kids? And how can we be empathetic? And Mom, maybe we want to become a foster home because there's certainly a great need.
Yeah. It can be so challenging. It's really something in this book. Malcolm's been through 9 different foster homes, and he's never been selected. He's never been chosen. And he winds up feeling that there's a problem with him, versus just not finding that right match, yet. So yeah, I think understanding that there are so many foster kids right now is really important.
Yeah. Janice, I think you'll appreciate this. Doing my educational magic shows over the years, I had one of the routines I had was I could take these individual beads and put them in a bag and turn them into a necklace right before everybody's eyes. And that was cool. But I wanted to make it a little bit more deep than just that. So I would hand the beads out and I would ask kids to think about what it is that they're grateful for. And then we collect them and turn them in. And the kids, and I remember my son, he was in middle school at the time when I first started doing this. And he said, "Oh, Bob, you can't do that with middle school kids. You know, you never know what they're going to, never, 99.9% of the thousands of times I did this, the kids are answering, I'm grateful for my family, my friends, my home. And it was wonderful. And there's one kid up in Maine, middle school kid. And I said, what are you thankful for? And he said, Jedley, you don't know this, but I'm new here at this school. And I've been in foster care all my life. And I was just adopted. And now for the first time in my life, I have a forever home.
Mm-hmm. Did you cry?
I am just about to do that. It changed the way I looked at things, and I remember giving the kid a big hug, and I'm hoping that his classmates did too, because it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, it's making me want to cry. So,
well, if everybody stopped crying long enough to check out the AI incident, where should they go to find out more about this book and more about your other book?
Oh, thank you. They can visit my website at jethomasauthor.com. And there's a lot of information about both books there. It will be available virtually everywhere books are sold on July 8th as both a print book, an ebook, and an audiobook.
And if you're on that big, giant bookstore in the sky and you put in J.E. Thomas and a book comes out about feudal Japan, that is not written by our guest.
Exactly right. I have 2 books, just 2 books. All of the other books belong to other J.E. Thomases.
Awesome. We've had a really wonderful time speaking about the new middle grade novel. It's called The AI Incident. Our guest has been the author, J.E. Thomas. Janice, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
Thank you so much again for having me. I loved it.
My friends, if you have ever thought about owning a business that's fun, rewarding, and makes a valuable contribution to kids' education, well, Brooklyn Robot Foundry is calling your name. I recently met Jenny Young. She's the founder of Brooklyn Robot Foundry. And let me tell you, she is incredible. Her passion for getting kids excited about STEAM, that's STEM plus art, it's contagious, I'm telling you. This isn't your average kids program. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is all about hands-on, screen-free STEAM fun. These kids get to build a different robot each class and take it home with them afterwards. Kids love it. Parents are raving about it. And now you can own a franchise and bring this incredible experience to families in your community. Now, this isn't your typical franchise. Brooklyn Robot Foundry is a mobile, flexible business with a deep curriculum that's making a real impact in schools and communities around the country. Franchise owners get a proven curriculum, full training, and support from a passionate team. So what are you waiting for? Please visit bit.ly/RobotJed. That's bit.ly/RobotJed. And let them know you heard about it on Reading with Your Kids. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Washington. Our guest is here today to celebrate her new middle grade novel. Is called When Sally O'Malley Discovered the Sea. Please welcome to the show Newbery Award-winning author Karen Cushman. Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm good this morning, Jed. Thank you. And thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you are very, very welcome and delighted to have you on. Tell us, who is Sally O'Malley?
Sally O'Malley is an orphan with nothing but gumption and a desire to see the sea. So she takes off, and after an unfortunate experience with a pig and the church ladies, which goes unexplained, she's thrown out of her place of employment and heads, what she finds out is west to see the sea. She doesn't know what that means, but she wants to go there. So that's what the book is about, and who she meets and picks up and travels with along the way, and how she finds what she wasn't looking for, but is even better than what she wanted to find.
I just love, there are a couple of things that you said is so neat. She finds what she wasn't looking for. What a delightful and intriguing phrase.
Well, I hope that it responds with some. No, I'm sorry. I hope it responds with some people. I think that happens to us a lot in life, that we have this aim or this goal, something we want to have or to accomplish, and it turns out that's not what we were really looking for. Mm-hmm. And if we're lucky, we find what that is. And Sally does, too. She figures it out.
Yeah. What a neat thing for a middle grade age kid to discover while reading a book. That idea that, get out there, get out in the world, start to live, and you have no idea what you're going to find.
That's right. That's right. And if you're careful, it's even better than what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah. You used another word. You told us that Sally has a lot of gumption. That's a neat word that I haven't heard in a long time.
Yes, well, I think it should be reclaimed for us, because it's a great descriptive word for somebody who just has heart and courage and strength, and despite setbacks, goes for what she wants or what she thinks she wants. Yes, so I thought it was a great word for Sally.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, that's something I think a lot of us forget how important it is to have gumption. I see an awful lot of young people these days, and a fair amount of old people as well, who just kind of expect everything to be handed to them.
That's right. And if it isn't, then they'll find something else to do, or they won't just push through to get what it is that they want. Yeah. I only became a writer because, well, my own little bit of gumption and a lot of my husband's to push me through and support me and keep going when I was writing my first book, and I didn't know what it was really, what was going to happen to it. But he wouldn't let me stop. He forced me to write. And it turned out for the best as I see it now. I wouldn't be a writer without it.
Isn't that wonderful when our partners can see something in us that we're not able to see and push us to make that
Yes.
reality?
Yes, for Karen Cushman, I woke up one morning with an idea in my head, and I said to him, "Listen to this, I have a great idea for a book." And he said, "You've been saying that for 25 years now, and I've never seen a word on paper. This time I won't listen, but I'll read it if you'll write it down." So I did. I wrote what turned out to be the first 7 pages of Karen Cushman. He was a psychologist. You can tell from the story. Yes, it worked. But that's the kind of support he gave me all along.
That's really wonderful. I love that. You know, you mentioned, I think something about not knowing, you know, kind of taking off, not knowing where you're going to land. Does that ever happen when you're writing? You kind of sit down and you think the story is going to go in one direction, and at the end of the process, you find out it went in a whole other direction.
Well, I seem to start a book with the first line and the last line. So it's like I have a direction to go, but it's that part in the middle that I find difficult to get her from A to B is harder. The first draft is always really difficult for me. Revision is great, but that first draft, but I know where where the character is going to end up because of that last line. I just have to figure out the journey.
Fascinating. You know, I've talked to a lot of, obviously I've talked to a lot of authors and also other creatives, and they've said that, you know, the first draft of everything is rubbish.
Right. That's not writing. That's just putting words on paper, that first draft. What you do with it after that, manipulate it and change it and listen to it and go with it, that's where the writing comes in.
Yeah. I've had many authors tell me that their characters surprise them as they're writing. Did Sally O'Malley surprise you at all during this creation process?
I don't think so. I think that just from that very first line, I had a real handle on her. And she didn't really surprise me until the very end when I figured out why she was wearing the red hat, the red cap, and how she warmed up and loosened up and let the family in. So those kind of surprised me. I wasn't sure how it was going to end, but she's pretty much her own self the whole book. There weren't a lot of surprises.
Yeah. Is Sally based on anybody or any people that you knew?
Sally is pretty much based on herself. I don't think I knew anybody like that or anybody who had those experiences, but I thought this kid with gumption, somebody that I'd like to explore, this homeless orphan on the road to where she doesn't know what it is.
Yeah. You were mentioning earlier that Sally, you know, after she gets fired and she sets off, she wants to see the sea, and that you know, she didn't really know where it was or what it was, but she had this idea and she wanted to get to it. It kind of reminds us that we didn't always have all the knowledge in the world instantly available at our fingertips.
That's right. Yeah.
Times when people might have lived their whole lives and never even saw a picture of an ocean.
That's right. You know, if she hadn't gone off on her truck, she wouldn't know anything about the sea or the ocean or the water or what happens outside of where she's living. And I think that's a good model for kids. You know, they need to see beyond the boundaries of their own experience. And even if it's not actually going there on the road, it's finding out about the world and other people and trying to imagine what life is like for people who don't have the same experiences that we do, and to value those people and their own experiences.
Yeah. We celebrate the fact that books are wonderful in that they can be windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. I think it's great that your book gives us and gives kids a chance to kind of look back and see what life was like 100 or so years ago.
Yes, I think so. And all of my books are historical, and I think that's part of the pleasure that I have in writing them, is my finding out how things were a long time ago and what they used and how it was different and how their times shaped their character. And so I hope that kids also get that there's more than this story there. There's it's learning. There's learning and accepting and maybe practicing a little compassion and acceptance and tolerance. Yeah.
We had Jane Yolen on the podcast, and one of the things that she said is that she can walk down the street and find 100 different ideas for stories. Stories are all around us all the time. What about for you, Karen? Where do you find the ideas and inspiration for your writing?
Well, I think Jane Yolen is amazing and that she does that. And then she turns all those ideas into stories and books. So she's amazing. But I like to use for myself the example of Legos. When just one Lego maybe is a red plastic square, rectangular toy. But if you get more Legos, you can turn them into a truck or a castle or a whole town. And I think that's how ideas come to me. They're little pieces. I ran across a book called, in the Images of America series, Will Hoyt Hot Springs or something. And I thought, that's interesting, but I didn't do anything with it. But then I found the first line and knew that I had a character, and then something else will come, some other piece of idea, and they'll all come together, and I build not a castle, but a story. So
neat. That's very neat. Tell me, you mentioned earlier that you wanted to write and talked about writing for 25 years, and it wasn't until your husband used some psychological trickery to get you
that's right.
your first story. What do you think was holding you back all those years?
Well, I think it was fear. I have often said that I was afraid I couldn't do it very well, so I try. And so I had to overcome that, and took me a while. And I got older, and so I think that failure wasn't the same thing. If I did something and it wasn't perfect, it wasn't a failure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was old enough to understand that and try again and work with it and revise an idea or a book. So that helped a lot. My husband's support really helped a lot. He, gently pushed me into a lot of experiences and attempts at writing, but most of it was in my head until he brought up the fact that he had never seen a word on paper. I had 1 million books written in my head. They just never saw the light of day. So,
yeah, you gotta. That's one of the challenges of writing. You actually have to get it down on paper so folks can see it.
That's right, and especially in the mornings when you're half asleep and you wake up with this great line or great idea, and by the time you get out of bed, it's gone. So I should learn to have a pen and paper by the side of my bed, but I probably couldn't read what I wrote anyway.
Well, that certainly has happened to me. I write down ideas and get up in the morning and look and go, I have no idea what that says.
That's right. What does that mean? Yeah.
Tell me, now that you've become a writer and you had that support from your husband and you're not only a writer, you're a Newbery Award-winning writer, do you kind of sit back and say, wow, I wish I'd got that push earlier? Or do you tell yourself, hey, it just had to happen this way. It happened the way it was meant to be.
I don't think I could have written those books any earlier in my life. I don't think I knew enough or understood enough or put things together as well. And I think all of my experiences, all of my past jobs, good jobs and rotten jobs, and people I knew and things I experienced, I think they all came together, and it just took a while. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I knew enough to write those books before I started to write them.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the things that held me back.
Yeah. What advice would you have for a young aspiring author or an older aspiring author?
Well, what I usually say is read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody says that. You see how other writers handle difficult ideas or topics, how they say things, what appeals to you and what you're writing, what you would like your writing sort of to be like, what it would like to say. Write a lot. It's practice. I remember my brother, when we were growing up, spending hours in the driveway with a basketball and a hoop and just throwing the baskets over and over and over again. It's that practice. It doesn't matter if you're sitting down to write a novel. You can write sentences. You can use writing prompts, whatever you want. It doesn't have to be publishable. It doesn't have to be any good. Just keep practicing, see what comes out. And listen well, because I think the whole world is your material. If you can hear it all, if you can hear ideas from other people, and maybe the way they speak will inspire you, or something that they say will inspire you. Just, my husband used to make fun of me when we were out to dinner because I was so carefully listening to everything that was going on and not paying enough attention to what we were doing. Yes, so that's what I usually tell, especially young people, because that's who I was mostly talking to.
Yeah, yeah. I love the analogy that you made, you and your brother in the driveway shooting hoops. No one ever, no one is saying no one is not right, but most folks sit down and accept the fact that if you're playing basketball, you're playing baseball, you're not going to get a hit every time. You're not going to sink a basket every time. And, in terms of baseball, the greatest hitter in the world, failed 60% of the time.
Right.
But I think some people say, well, if I don't write, if everything that comes from my pen or my keyboard isn't a gem, then I'm a failure and I have to give up.
Yes, I've heard that a lot, and I think that that's not true. You can't, some kid doesn't wake up one morning and say, oh, I'm going to play for the Lakers and go and try and joins the team. That's not how it works in sports or in life, really. Why should it be true in writing? So I think that that's something really important, is that practice. Write a lot.
Yeah. I imagine that you've had many interactions with kids at school, on school visits, and have been asked thousands of questions. Can you think of any question a young person has asked you that really kind of stands out in your mind as either very insightful or very funny, or it just struck you and stayed with you?
Gee, it's been so long since I've talked to kids. I really don't remember too much, specifically questions. I feel a great responsibility when I talk to them because, for instance, one young woman told me she could really relate to The Midwife's Apprentice because she was in the hospital after Catherine Cushman, she had tried to kill herself and found that Bertie's what's the word I'm looking for? Her persistence, and finding what meant when she couldn't have what she wanted, what she could have, and what she could do. So those kinds of responses are the ones that I remember. I find the whole experience of talking to kids about their own lives humbling and touching and a little scary to have that kind of responsibility.
I bet that must have really been eye-opening to hear that your book had
it was.
that effect.
It was.
Yeah.
I didn't exactly know what to do with the information,
Yeah. Tell me, Karen, have you written the first and last sentence of your next work?
I have written the first line, and I have the last paragraph in mind for the book, but it only exists on manuscript paper or on little yellow pads around the house. But the first line, the book is about a fraudulent relic seller, a seller of fake relics in the Middle Ages, and an apothecary's daughter, and a stuffed alligator on the ceiling who talks. Now, apothecary shops were like druggists, and to show that they were men of learning and science, often they would hang some kind of animals or creatures from the ceiling of the shop. And the most popular was an alligator. For some reason, it was sort of symbolic of what they were doing. So you can see pictures, if you can find them online, of these places with bottles and flasks full of stuff, and on the ceiling is sometimes a huge alligator, stuffed and dead and hanging there. So I thought that would be really interesting to play with. So I decided that mine could, not at the beginning, but he would talk. And you haven't seen that plot ever, have you?
No, absolutely not. Well, you consider yourself invited back to the show when that book is out in the world. In the meantime, tell us where we can go to find out more about When Sally O'Malley Discovered the Sea, and also find out more about Karen Cushman, please.
Where you can go? Well, you can go to KarenCushman.com. I have a website. And I wanted to find something this morning, and I put in my name and the person I was interviewed by, and it popped up. There's a ton of stuff out there on the internet if that's what people want. But to find out more about me, they can read my books.
Yes.
Because I'm in all of them, and they're all in me in a way.
Wow. Well, we're really excited that When Sally O'Malley Discovered the Sea is out there for middle grade kids and beyond to sit down and read. And we're delighted that you've joined us here, Karen. Thank you so much for being on Reading with Your Kids.
I'm pleased to have done it, Jed, and thank you for making it interesting and fun.
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids. You will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. In the meantime, please be sure to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, and at Jedley Magic on X. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/readingwithyourkids, and our website is readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our amazing guest, J.E. Thomas. Please be sure to check out the AI Incident. And also want to thank Karen Cushman. Please be sure to check out When Sally O'Malley Discovered the Sea. I want to thank my amazing team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Chris Doherty, Elle Glassman, Dante Greco. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, Thank you so very much. Taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking through the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.